I'm not gonna lie, I had this whole thing planned about how huge and unnecessarily stupid the grille on the BMW X7 is. I was gonna start with something like a botched nose job or even buck teeth, but then I picked up this all-new M50i version and I realized it's really not that bad. Still not convinced? You should see it from the driver's seat. Okay, so you can't actually see the grille from the driver's seat, and that's half my point here. It's still dumb and it's still huge, but this brushed, almost bronze-like look BMW has added to this M50i version really tones it down a bit, and I think it would be wise to add that same option to non-M50i versions, because I think the chrome look that it gives on the other models is what really makes it look ridiculous. So what exactly is the M50i? Well, it's kind of the halfway point between the X7 and a full-fledged M version. And that means a unique blend of luxury and performance that makes this thing an absolute riot to blast down the road while the massaging seats are working the knots out of your back. This thing is like an eggplant emoji on wheels, and I don't just mean because of the color. It swings a serious aubergine, if you know what I mean, and makes some serious power. It's got the same 4.4-liter twin turbocharged V8 found in the xDrive 50i version, but output has been dialed up to 523 horsepower to go along with 553 pound-feet of torque. Now both those turbos are mounted between the cylinder banks, and that means they spool up really quickly. Turbo lag? Not a chance, and this thing will sprint to 100 kilometers an hour in just about 4.5 seconds, which is extremely fast, especially when you consider that this thing weighs almost 6,000 pounds. It's also got air suspension at all four corners that can lower the ride height and stiffen things up when you want to have some fun, or it can soften it and make it really cushy when you drive down the road. It's a really impressive setup. It took BMW a long time to build a 3-row SUV, but it was definitely worth the wait. I'm really impressed with this thing overall, and I'm really impressed with its ability to maximize the utility in the back. Now, part of that is because of the seating. It's got room for 7 passengers, and that second row is absolutely massive. But you can also fold all those seats down when you need to maximize the cargo area. Now, my tester has the $8,000 premium package, and it includes a cool feature that lets you configure the back with buttons located near the tailgate to lower the seats, raise them, move them forward or back without having to crawl around inside and fold things down. It's a really cool feature, and as much as that package is expensive, those things do make it worth the extra money. Now, some other stuff that makes up that premium package are heated and cooled cup holders up front, this massive sunroof, a great head-up display, and massaging and ventilated front seats. Now, it's that last part that bothers me just a little bit, and that BMW does not offer ventilated seats unless you opt for this premium package. And that really blows my mind, and I feel like BMW is taking advantage of its customer base, especially when you consider you can get ventilated seats in a $27,000 Kia, yet BMW doesn't make them standard in an SUV that costs $113,000. It's just kind of puzzling to me, and I think it's not fair to its buyers, but hey, that's just me. Now, some other pricey options BMW Canada has put in this tester are the dynamic handling package that uses electric motors at all 4 corners to reduce body roll, as well as detect road imperfections before you get to them. Now, it uses the cameras as well as the navigation system to anticipate road imperfections and adapt the suspension to them before you even get there. It is very cool stuff. Now, there's also a $5,000 stereo in here, that paint that'll set you back another grand, and an advanced driver assistance package that adds another $2,000 to the price. That package isn't just adaptive cruise control though, and it even has a self-lane changing function, which is pretty neat. but it's also a little gimmicky, and I think you'd be hard-pressed to justify spending that kind of money. Because all told, the Tester I'm driving is priced out at almost 140 grand, and that's a lot of money. But I actually do see some value in this thing, and the price of admission might even be worth it for the space you get alone. Now that's because the quality of the cabin is comfortable and luxurious. I personally probably wouldn't opt for this color interior, mostly because it's prone to pizza stains, but I will say that the leather is very nice, it's very comfortable, and these seats are fantastic. And that massage function is worth the price for the premium package alone. They are great, and I find myself using them all the time. Now, like I said earlier, there's a ton of room for people or stuff in here, or both. The second row is absolutely massive, and you can accommodate all kinds of configurations as well as up to 7 people in here, but it doesn't feel cramped even in that third row. No, it's not going to offer as much room as something like a Suburban, but it does give you a decent amount of space when you need to carry more than 2 rows worth of people. When it comes to the way this thing drives, I'm not a huge fan of how chunky BMW steering wheels are, and they make it feel like you're grabbing one of those fat grips on a putter. I just don't like it that much, but I will say, considering the size of this thing, the steering does feel pretty direct, and it's also got a variable ratio, so it's a little bit lighter and easier to operate at lower speeds around parking lots and stuff. But when you're out on a road, pushing it a little bit harder, it stiffens up a bit and gives you a little bit more feedback, which is a nice feature to have. Now, just like any other vehicle that rides on huge wheels, the rims on this thing do make road imperfections just a little bit more noticeable. It's those low profile tires, and it's mostly audible, but it is annoying in a vehicle of this price range. I just think that it could be a little bit more comfortable. Now, the air suspension does make it roll over bumpy roads very, very nicely, and I do find this thing extremely comfortable, but those wheels do bother me. And of course, when you put your right foot into it, this thing is an absolute missile in a straight line, which is cool, it is fun, but it's also kind of problematic, and you can really tell this thing is built for unrestricted stretches of highway in Europe and not highways here in Canada, because it can get you in a lot of trouble. Illegal speeds come very quickly, very quietly, and very smoothly, and you can go to pass someone, and the next thing you know, you are going dangerously quick. I know it is very common in German luxury vehicles, but it is something you need to be careful of with a vehicle like this. Now for some quick observations from the driver's seat. There are a lot of buttons in here. Now, I am happy that BMW has decided to stick with real hard touch buttons rather than haptic touch, but there are a lot in here and it's a lot to get used to. I consider myself a pretty tech savvy guy, but I was sitting in the BMW Canada parking lot for about 20 minutes when I picked this thing up just to get used to all the basic controls. Even things like Apple CarPlay aren't as simple as other applications. Now, part of that is because it is a wireless setup, but I wouldn't think that I would have to have Bluetooth and Wi-Fi on just to hook up my phone, and I actually found myself looking up YouTube videos in order to get connected before I got on the road, and that is a bit of a problem. When I first used BMW's gesture control system a few years ago, I thought it was pretty gimmicky, and it's still a cool way to impress your friends, but I have come to appreciate the benefits of it from a safety perspective, because rather than reaching for those buttons or knobs, you can just wave your hand in front of the screen and get the job done quickly without taking your eyes off the road. Now, speaking of this touchscreen, it's about 12.5 inches and it's a widescreen format, and it's very nice to use. It looks great, it's very smooth, very quick, the graphics are very crisp, but it's very easy to use. I really like Apple CarPlay on this thing too. The widescreen with the maps means you're not squinting trying to look for your destination. Now, it's also got a cool digital instrument cluster that can be configured to display things you want, like your Apple CarPlay, like your music, G-forces, power, you name it, it's got it all. But it always keeps a map dead center, which is a very handy feature when you're trying to find your way around a new location. Now, some other cool tech in here is a Wi-Fi hotspot and an awesome companion app that lets you do things like lock and unlock the car, precondition the cabin, remote engine start, and even check how much fuel you have, all from your smartphone. And on that last point, you are definitely going to need to keep an eye on fuel consumption because this thing is thirsty. I've consumed more than 15 liters per 100 kilometers during my test week, which is pretty terrible. Now, I know this thing is a performance SUV, but that's a lot of gas, and especially when you consider this thing runs on premium, expect a lot of trips to the pumps. When it comes to what I like about the BMW X7 M50i and what I don't, I'm a big fan of the smooth ride, the surprising value, and the quick throttle response. Some stuff I don't like are the chunky steering wheel, the lack of standard seat ventilation, and the fuel consumption. You know, it took BMW a very long time to build its first three-row SUV, but it did a fantastic job with the X7, and this M50i version is damn good at what it does. It's huge and luxurious and drives like a 7 Series, some high praise considering the bar BMW sets with its big sedan. It's also lightning quick and is probably faster than most people need. When it comes to looks, well, I know that Grille isn't for everyone, but the best part is you don't have to look at it from behind the wheel.